Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10 and support the channel at the same time. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. This is GP Las Vegas weekend. I know many of you are out there. Good luck at the event. Wish I could be there, but I'll watch some coverage, and I don't know, this is the next best thing maybe? Anyway, this week is all about Commander. We're going to look at standard and modern legal cards like we always do, dip into vintage a little bit too. But really, you're going to see Commander cards permeating all of our lists today. Partially due to the fact that Battlebond was just released. Now, we're not going to talk about Battlebond singles today because we did a special video on those yesterday. I'll link it at the end in case you missed it, though. Quickly before we get started, just a really fast reminder, if you check out the description below, you'll find a few ways to help support what we do here at the channel. You'll find our Patreon page down below. You're also going to find links to products on Amazon. If you make any purchases on Amazon, once you go through that link, we'll get a small percentage. Finally, Flipside Gaming still offering a promo code for our viewers. They still have some of those Richard Kane Ferguson playmats too. If you are a fan of the old school Legends, they look actually pretty awesome. So you might want to check those out. But as always, thank you not only to the folks that check out those links, but to all the viewers. Y'all make the channel what it is, and let's get into it. We're going to begin, as we always do with Standard, in the top 5 Standard legal cards that have lost value this week. You're going to see a lot of cards from Dominaria on here because, of course, a lot of packs are being opened of Dominaria. A lot of Limited's being played right now. It's a very popular set, and more of the quantities are just getting out there, even if they are good cards. Number 5, though, is Walking Ballista, down $1.01 to $18. One thing about Walking Ballista, the card is great. Not only in Standard, it does well in other formats too. We talk about it every week, week in and week out. It is a little soft right now. It's going to continue to be soft, though, I think, especially once the core set releases and people decide what they're going to play for that last Standard meta before rotation. And once people decide, maybe Walking Ballista is not going to be in my deck, they're going to start selling. Sellers are going to get nervous and start liquidating. So this card is already maybe starting to see a little bit of that, even though it's seeing a lot of play. It had a good weekend last weekend yet again. We even saw it as a one-of in some control builds in the main. So the card's just doing great, but I do expect it to continue to be soft. Number 4, History of Benalia, down $1.91 to $16. Okay, now this is the first of 4 Dominaria cards, which will be going down for the reason I mentioned before. But also, too, don't forget that the core set is about to drop on us. Previews start officially next week, although we've seen a lot of cards already. And even though it feels super fast, like a blink of an eye, we're already at the point where players are going to stop buying the expensive cards until they see what's going to happen in the next version of the meta. So we're already there. That's part of the reason some of these more expensive cards are softer as well. But they are performing well. Cards like this one, for example, looked great last weekend. Maybe this didn't do as well at the Pro Tour in some cases as some people thought like the mid-range decks would do. But mid-range decks came back last week in many of the big events. So this card still feels very healthy. Number 3, Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, down $1.99 to $38. Again, another extremely healthy card that's going down quite a bit this week due to more copies getting out there. Remember that this had a great Pro Tour. It looked amazing, even though it didn't take over the top 8 or anything like that. That was really the red-black cards and Goblin Chain Whirler. But it still looked great on day 2. Still performed very well last weekend. And as a matter of fact, this card has actually already grabbed a nice foothold in Modern in those Jeskai control decks. In some cases, pushing Jace right out of that deck, which is pretty crazy. But again, you can't argue with supply and demand. As more of the supply gets out there, the demand is starting to get quelled a little bit. Number 2, Lyra Dawnbringer, down $2.44 to $15.59. Basically everything I said about History of Benalia, I could just say here. The card maybe looked a little less good than it was looking at Pro Tour weekend. However, after that, it did rebound and looked pretty good. Mid-range decks looked better. And some control decks are still thinking of playing this or Benalia out of the sideboard. Not all builds, but many still do. So even with the play this is seeing, it's still very soft. And finally, number 1, Karn Scion of Urza, down $3.81 to $50.98. Now, Karn is Karn, right? I mean, the card's everywhere, not only in Standard, but we talk about week in and week out. Affinity decks in Modern, Mono Red Prison in Legacy, Steel Stompy in Legacy, so on and so forth. The card is going to remain healthy. But even Karn is not immune to these extra copies getting out there. The card's been relatively soft. Also, too, the competitive players, like the early engagers, they got their Karns like week 1 and week 2 and such. That was part of the reason we saw such big spikes during that time period. Now, everything's starting to settle down a little bit. And again, even Karn looked a little sparse last week compared to other weeks. So maybe, just maybe, that's an indication that people are figuring out how many Karns are the right number in some decks, and also which decks to actually play Karn, and we might see a little bit less play in the coming weeks. Although, I'm not too worried. This card is still going to see tons of play. If you bought these, don't feel like you're not going to use them. You'll definitely use them. Okay, let's move into the top 5 standard legal cards that have gained value this week. Now, these are standard legal cards. You're going to see a lot of influence here from Commander, though, even more so than standard. Now, I could move those all into the Commander section, but the problem is then we'd be looking at the top 5 standard cards that barely moved this week, and I don't really think that'd be very interesting. So, let's check it out. Number 5, Zacama Primal Calamity, up 19 cents to $8.49. Well, here's the beginning of the Commander influence. And this is a card that actually has been a pretty popular Commander card just generally. But I do think now that we're seeing core set previews and we see more dinosaurs coming out, it does feel like dinosaurs are now evergreen. So I do think that's got more people thinking about long-term building dinosaur decks. Number 4, here's another dinosaur, Ghalta Primal Hunger, up 20 cents to $8.03. This one has crossover appeal. This has been seeing Commander play, obviously. But this will also show up in your stompy decks in Standard. Number 3, another solid Commander card here. Rishkar's Expertise goes up 21 cents to $1.48. Not a huge increase, but definitely there is interest among Commander and casual players here. Planar Bridge, up 21 cents to $2.69. Another Commander card here. And I should mention Brawl, too, of course. There are Brawl decks picking these up as well. And one of the big decks right now is Joda. 5-color decks are pretty popular between Joda and Najeela. So cards like this one and Rishkar's Expertise, which we just looked at, they can help you get some cards out if you stumble on mana, and that's why they're getting the attention that they are right now. Number 1, Razaketh the Foul-Blooded, up 32 cents to $6.64. This has been on our list for a few weeks now, and again, it's not gaining a whole lot. You can see how slow Standard is currently. However, this is another card that is moving because of Commander or Brawl, and especially the more spiky competitive decks. This is a great card for those builds. Okay, let's move on to Modern, or maybe what you would consider another form of Commander this week. So let's look at the 5 Modern cards that have lost value. Number 5 is Mox Opal from Modern Masters 2015, down $2.44 to $99. You're going to notice the other version of this card is on our list going up in a few moments. So it's just a matter of finding the right price point for these cards, and I think that price point's probably around $100 until it gets reprinted. It really could use a reprint, though. Obviously, we talk about this one week in and week out. Crucible of Worlds from 10th edition, down $2.49 to $66.10. It's kind of interesting that this one's on our list this week and dropping as much as it is. It's not really seeing less or more play than it was. I do think people are getting a little suspicious of Crucible of Worlds, though. It's like the last big card that we've been begging to see reprinted that hasn't been reprinted yet. You gotta think it's gotta happen in the next year, maybe in the next Master set in the spring or something along those lines. I don't know. But it feels like it's a soft card right now because people are just speculating on a reprint. Number 3, Tarmogoyf from Modern Masters, down $3.22 to $79.99. A lot of the Jund cards are still stabilizing, trying to find their price point. Jund went through a rough spot where it wasn't putting up some good results for a number of weeks. That changed a couple weeks ago. As a matter of fact, Jund looked great over the last 2 weeks. So I do think that's going to stabilize some of these cards that were dropping. But this one, I think, is, again, just trying to find the correct price point on the market. Same with this one, Liliana of the Veil, down $5 to $104.99. This is the Modern Masters 2017 version. And yeah, $110 for the Modern Masters one does feel like it was probably a little high. But again, Jund is looking better, so I think that's going to kind of stem some of the losses from cards like this. And remember, the last card in this one, they do see play outside of Jund as well. A lot of times, Death Shadow decks, or just various other decks in Modern and Legacy. Number 1, Horizon Canopy. This is, of course, the original Future Sight version, down $7.64 this week to $70.06. This card spiked a couple weeks ago, and it's been snapping back, which isn't too surprising. Basically, this card is always going to be worth more than the reprinted version in Iconic Masters, due to the fact that it has a unique card border, it has unique art. A lot of players gravitate towards this card, and Future Sight had a lower print run compared to a lot of modern era Magic sets, so it's hard sometimes to find these in good condition. This will always be a popular card. I do think it will stabilize maybe around the $65 mark or $60 mark before it starts to slowly trend up again. Okay, those were actually modern playable cards. Is that the case with the cards going up in value? Not really. Number 5, though, actually is, and that's Mox Opal, Scars of Mirrodin, up $2.05 to $105.20. Like I said, just trying to find its price point. Number 4, here we go with Commander Vidalcan Orrery. This is the original 5th Dan version, up 221 to 2249. Great Commander staple, probably about time for another reprint for this one. Bear Umbra, up 323 to 1349. Very good Commander card. As a matter of fact, it's great in the Najeela decks right now. That's why we're seeing it spike. Speaking of Najeela, number 2 is Nature's Will. And this is up 533 this week to 1854. This is one of the cards that can combo with Najeela to basically give you endless attacks. So this is one of many cards that will work in that combo that we're going to look at today, but this one's been pretty hot. And finally, at number 1, Bringer of the Black Dawn, up 604 to 999. We're kind of back on the 5-color thing right now. And again, with Joda and some of the other 5-color cards have been popular recently, this card has a pretty big week percentage-wise. Okay, so that was the world of Modern / Commander. And what's going on in the world of Vintage / Commander this week? Well, I'll tell you right now, the Vintage buyouts have slowed down quite a bit. A lot of the crazy market manipulation wasn't really going on this week. So I'm going to go back to just doing a quick snapshot of maybe some interesting Vintage cards. And I'm not going to go into all like the eBay data and all that this week. If I do that again in the future, I might do a separate video. I have found that it is kind of confusing, and it's probably my fault that it's difficult to explain exactly like how I get that data and how it's relevant and how they correlate while I'm trying to quickly go through the video. So I don't want to confuse anybody. I'm just going to go back to kind of what I was doing again, mostly though, because there isn't a lot happening in the Vintage market this week. Battle of Suleiman. This was a card I thought was interesting from Arabian Nights, up $7.70 to $28.15. This is not on the reserve list. It has been reprinted a number of times, but it is a flip a coin card, and as we've learned over the last couple weeks, that is another popular Commander build right now, thanks to Zender Split and Alcon, which are, of course, from Battlebond. So we're going to see some more flip a coin cards coming up, too. Spirit Link is actually the next one, though, from Legends, up $13.11 this week to $27.47. Yes, this is probably more so because it's a Legends card than anything. It is not on the reserve list. Again, it's been reprinted. You can find cheaper copies. Modern Hexproof decks sometimes run a copy of this in the sideboard. You see that quite frequently. I don't think that is what is moving the price, though, here. I think this is just a buyout, or maybe listings dried up this week. Control Magic from Unlimited, up $13.81 to $19.50. We've been seeing a lot of Unlimited cards spiking pretty aggressively over the last few weeks. This does not feel like that same level of market manipulation, though. Perhaps it's just a week where there's some dry listings, or maybe some additional interest from some players playing 93, 94, or something like that. Now, of course, this card has been reprinted, and you can find a lot of cheaper copies than this one. Hammerheim from Legends, up $16.04 to $19.40. So this definitely feels like a buyout, but again, it feels like a more classic buyout where they're not necessarily manipulating prices. Now, this particular card is not on the reserve list, but it's never been reprinted either, so that's going to help it hold its value definitely, although at some point it could be reprinted. It's just kind of awkward because that ability, landwalking, we don't really see anymore in new contemporary cards. Hey, but you never know what could happen in the future. Maijie Jin. This is up $23.32 to $56.99 from Arabian Nights. Another card that is not on the reserve list. It was reprinted in Revised, and yet again, another flip a coin card. Coincidence? Probably not. Now, I don't know how many of these cards are being bought by people actually building the flip a coin deck when it comes to these Arabian Nights cards, or if it's more people speculating that folks may want to buy these cards at some point. Altar of Bone is our last Vintage Spotlight card today. This is on the reserve list from Ice Age, of $35.70 to $43.49. This feels like a buyout to me. It doesn't really make sense because the card is fine. I mean, it's playable in Commander, but it's not amazing, right? In those colors especially, there's a lot of options for tutors that are a lot more affordable and actually probably more streamlined and stronger. So, kind of is what it is, but definitely feels like a buyout. Okay, let's move on to that Commander Spotlight. There's a lot of cards, so I'm going to go kind of quick here. Patron of the Moon, up $1.06 to $5.29. We've seen this one on our list for a few weeks, kind of on and off. It's been a very popular, strong Commander card. Sword of Feast and Famine, the Mirrodin Besiege version, up $1.10 to $33.74. Guess what? Another card that combos with Najeela, so you can untap those lands and keep attacking. Stitch in Time, up $1.12 to $9.99. This has been on our list for about 3 weeks now or so. Of course, this is another coin flip card, and that's why it's there. Maelstrom Archangel, up $1.28 to $16.79. Another card that feels like it's probably time to see it reprinted. I feel like it could show up at any moment in some sort of product. But again, it's a 5-color card, so it's going to work well in those Joda or other 5-color decks. Druid's Repository, up $1.44 to $2.24. This card's gotten hot this week. Again, another card that combos directly with Najeela. Secure the Waste, up $1.57 to $5.60. I'm going to let you guess. Yep, you got it, Najeela. This creates warriors at instant speed. Hey, why not? Dolmen Gate, $1.73 to $8.46. Now, you see this, you might say to yourself, this is probably fine in a Najeela deck. Actually, it probably is. However, the reason it's moving this week is because Saffron Olive did a brew. This was a modern brew that was a combo deck with Narset. Actually, it was pretty cool. Check it out on MTG Goldfish if you get a chance. I love Seth's brews. They're always awesome, and he does some really cool, innovative things. Always like checking those out every week. So, yeah, this card got spiked a little bit due to the interest in that build. Sword of Fire and Ice from Darksteel, up $1.80 to $52.49. Now, a lot of folks were getting this to protect themselves against some potential Izzet shenanigans within the World of Commander. Of course, we just saw the two Planeswalkers come out in Battlebond, Will and Rowan. On top of that, we had Zender Split and Akone. So a lot of people just wanted to pick this up to be safe, I think. And also, Najeela's red, so even though it's a 5-color deck typically, it might help there in some cases too. Stonehoof Chieftain, up $8.64 to $16.99. Well, you just read the creature type and you probably can fill in the rest. Of course, it's a warrior. It's going to play well with Najeela in this case. Azuri, Claw of Progress, up $12.24 to $19.23. This is a really strong card that's never been reprinted. It's from Commander 2015. That's part of the reason it's as hot as it is right now. But also, too, the reason you're seeing this current spike is not because it's a good Commander card generally, which it is, but it does work well with some cards from Battlebond. Sure, Najeela is one of them, since this is a warrior, but even beyond that, cards like Pierre and Toothy play really well with this, too. Alright, let's wrap things up with a quick Pauper card that I wanted to spotlight. It's Thermokarst from Ice Age, up 301 to 353. Great card right now in the format, and I think this is a reaction to what we saw in the Pauper event last weekend from Star City Games. Number 2, 3, and 4, and the top 8 were all Izzet Delver decks, which run Scred as well as, of course, snow-covered lands to fuel it. So I think a lot of people saw that and thought, maybe I'll just go out and pick up a Thermokarst or two, right? And it does totally make sense as a sideboard card in the format. This is another one of those cards that was never printed as a common in paper, but it is usually legal in Pauper events since it did get a Magic Online printing at common, and MTGO rules are typically what tournament organizers follow for these events. Alright, with that being said, that's the Market Watch for this week. We have a lot of previews going on this week. I will continue to put out preview update videos throughout the next couple weeks, no doubt. Next Saturday, though, we will still do a Market Watch. I'll see you there. But until next time, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.